Hello everyone and welcome to this video on integrating Power BI. I'm Tim Weinzapfel, and in this video I am going to show how you can group multiple emails into one with Power BI and Power Automate. Now in a prior video I showed how you can embed a Power Automate button and then send automatic emails pulling in data dynamically from your Power BI report, such as this, where we had two emails sent to Paul asking about some late projects, and you'll see Paul would get two emails. Now, this is great and this is easy to do. The problem is if you are sending multiple emails to the same individual, probably what you're going to want instead of getting two emails is just getting one where you have a table then of the information. So in this video, I'm going to show a quick way of how you can just modify your Power Automate flow to do just this. So let's jump over to Power BI Desktop and I will show how this can be done. So in a prior video, I showed how you can easily embed a Power Automate button, and I've got one up here in blue that when clicking on it, it will go ahead and send emails to every individual here that is selected in my table. And in my case, I'm doing it by project manager, and it pulls in dynamic data from your report. So let me go ahead and pull up a snippet of that flow. So this is a very simple flow that I have set up in Power Automate. Again, you'll see here when the button is clicked. And what I've done is I've added in all of these fields that are here in my table, and then those become available in my flow to do that. And you can see here, it's gonna do an apply to each. So it'll walk through every single individual, in my case, these project managers, send them an email to, this is an email address, and then I'm pulling in all of that data. Again, the problem here is that if there is a project manager who has multiple records, such as in this case, Larry and Paul, they're going to get multiple emails. So a great tip on creating buttons is I'm going to go ahead and take this table because this is a lot of the data that I want to pass to my flow. I'm going to go ahead and copy it. I'll go up here to copy. Let me paste this, and let's go ahead and I'll resize this. And there, now I have all of the fields I want. I turn it into a Power Automate button. There it is. The only one I need to add is I need the email address. There I go. Let's go ahead now. I have all the fields I need. And let's go ahead and create the flow. So what I'm going to want to do now is this is getting ready to load in, is I want to start thinking through what I want. And what I want to do is I want to get an individual list of all of my email addresses, because that's how I'm going to be grouping things. So one thing to be aware of, and I will show this when I look at some sample data, is when you are clicking the Power BI, what's happening is it's passing data from your Power BI report to Power Automate, and it's actually passing it in an array. So the beauty of it is there is some great functions that will work very nicely for what I want. And what I want to do in my first action is get a list of individual email addresses, because that's what I'll be using for grouping. I'm going to use the select operation, which is in the overall data operation category. And that allows you to select specific items from, in this case, an array. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I need to select this from my, I believe it is the body, the Power BI data. This will work well right here. And then what I need is I need to give it, I'm going to map this, and I'm going to just call this email. And I'm going to scroll down here and find my Power BI. And essentially what this is going to do is just create a new array for me. And it's going to have one field in it called email, and then it will have a list of every single individual email that's in there, including all of the duplicates. So now what I want to do is I want to eliminate all of the duplicates. And I will, when I test this and run this, you'll actually see how this works. But here is a great tip to how you can remove duplicates when you have them in an array. So I'm going to go ahead and create an array, an actual array, using the, I'm going to go over here to the variables. And I'm going to initialize a variable down here. And what I want, I'll call this email list. And what I want is an array, because that's actually what I want to create. Now, and this is a little trick that I found in order to create an array, because what I have coming out of here is I'm going to have basically one array of a bunch of emails. So one way you can eliminate duplicates is to just use and I'm going to use the union function. Scroll down here so you can see, and then I'm going to actually union the output up here to itself. So I'm going to do that. I do another comma, and then I'll click OK. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm combining both arrays, and what that will essentially do is eliminate any duplicates. So if you have two email addresses that are the same, it will eliminate and just have one unique one. So now what this is going to result in is a complete list of unique email addresses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I want to wrap everything in around and apply to each. So for every unique email address, I'm going to then want to grab from, I'll scroll back up here, from all of this data, all of the rows that are specific to that email address. So let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and do let's find the apply to each. And I'm going to want to do, and what I want is I'm going to apply every item to this output of my initialized variable. And that's going to be this email list right here, because again, that's going to be my unique list of email addresses. All right, so what I'm going to do is, the first thing I want to do is I want to get the email address of the individual. So I'm going to use a compose statement, which this is a great way. Now, this does get a little tricky because I have to actually kind of trick the system. What I want is, and I'll show this in a second, but within this array called email list is a record that will be email, and that's what I want. The problem is I can't pull it in dynamically here directly because the only thing that shows up is this apply to each. What I need though is the item here, but I need to specify the specific field. So I actually have to go ahead and use an expression here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and type it in by using the items function, and that's this right here. And then I have to reference the apply, and that's the apply to each, which is how I've got it named. And then I'm putting in a question mark, and then I'm referencing the field, and I will show this. So I will do OK. Now what this step gets me is the specific name. As it cycles through this list of email addresses, it gets me the individual one for that specific row. So now I have the specific email address that I want. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and filter the data up here. And it's actually, the data just to all of those records that match this email address. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, I can just use that. I'm going to use the select feature here, the select function. And again, I'm going to go ahead and select the values from the original Power BI data. This is where now within that field, I can actually pull this up, the email field. Let's pull that right here. And where that, actually, I used the wrong one, not select. Let me delete that. It's not select. I need to filter. Let's go back here to data operations. I need to filter the array. Select would be selecting the columns I want, but what I want to actually do is filter the array. So I'm going to go ahead again. Let's go back and filter the array. Again, this Power BI data, this is the array that I want. I want to go ahead and filter where that field is equal to, and I want it's equal to this compose up here, and that's up here. Now, what I would also recommend as you do these is go ahead and rename all of these steps. I'm not doing that just so that I can keep show you what the steps are, but it's always good practice to rename them. And then now what this will do is this will produce a filtered array of all the original data that is tailored just to each individual email. And then the last thing is, which is very nice, is because this is now still an array, I can add one more action. If I go into the built-in, the data operation area again, there is this create HTML table, and all it needs is an actual array, which of course would be the output of this filter array. So we'll go up here, and I'm actually going to leave, where is the, I want the Make sure I get. All right, the one I want here is the body. That's the field. You can see all these individual fields. There is advanced options to create different columns, but we're going to keep this very simple, and that is there. Now what I can do is send an email, do my send an email action, and we will go to, there it is. I'll put in the email. It's going to go ahead and do this. I need to actually need to delete that because I don't want the apply to each because I'm already in one. And actually did it, I think what I did, let me see, I did this wrong. Okay, I did grab the wrong one, that's why. So let's go back to send an email, fix that. What I want is the two, if I go to dynamic content, is not this this because this is going to wrap the thing in a apply to each. What I actually want again is, remember, I created up here in this compose was that individual email. That's the one I want. And then I could have my subject, please provide updates, and then I could say, please provide updates to the following. And then I will find my table where there it is, my create HTML table. And this is going to go ahead and create that actual table. So let's go ahead and test and run this. We'll give this a name. Call this episode 20 grouping. Let's save. And then we'll apply this and we'll test it out. So we'll save, always make sure to apply it. And we'll save we'll test this out. All right, so let's go ahead and test this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the 3 records for Larry here. And instead of getting 3 emails, there should only be 1. So let's go ahead and run that flow. Let's jump over to the Outlook. And there it is. It came in. And there is the email in a table output. Now, the first reaction is that you're going to notice is this table does not look that clean. There's some cleanup that we need to do. The start and end dates need to be cleaned up. Maybe we don't even need the start date. We don't certainly need to include the email address. So we're going to make a couple of tweaks. And the last thing we're going to do really quickly is just add some style formatting. And this is something I covered in the previous video about how to add style formatting. So we're going to go ahead and jump back to our flow and we'll add that nice touch. So let's jump back over to the flow. All right, so I'm back to my flow and I'm going to make 2 additions. The first thing I'm going to do is after my filter array, I want to actually select only a few of the columns because we don't need all of them. So let's go ahead and add that. I'll add an action. It is the select option here in data operation. This allows you to select only the columns you want. So I will select it. I'm going to choose it from the step previous to it. And let's go ahead and I'll call the first one project name, which is the same one. Now, in this case, you won't see any dynamic fields to choose. I actually have to type this one in. So I'm going to use the item function, not items, but the item one. And I will give it a question mark. Let's move the S out of the way. And I want the project name column. So let's go ahead and do OK. Go ahead and do end date. And again, I will do the same thing. I will use the item property question mark, and then I will give it the end date, which is the name of the column. Now, in this case, I want to actually format this because if you remember, we also had to format the date that was showing. So I'm going to use the format date time function. Let's go ahead and move that. And so I'm using the format date time, then what I just put in, then a comma, and then it wants the date format. So in my case, it is mm/dd/YYYY. And I will close that with parentheses, just kind of show that real quick. And that is the function. We'll do OK. And then let's add comments. And again, I have to use the item function question mark and comments, which is the name of the column. So let's do OK. Now, go down here to the create HTML table. Let's go ahead and click on that right now. It is pointing to the filter array step. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Let's go ahead and add in the output of this new step that we've created. Now we have the new table, which only has these 3 columns. Now, last step I want to do again is I want to format the table so it looks nice. Now, in the last video that I did, and I'll provide a link to that right here, is I showed how you can apply some formatting style in this send an email step. So let's go ahead and do that. I've actually copied the style that I did from that prior video. So I'll go ahead and paste that in. And again, you go here to this code view, and that allows you, that opens up this HTML code format. And I can go ahead in here and I'm going to paste in, I've already copied it. And this is the style format that I want to apply. And again, I covered all this in the prior video, so I won't go through it here. And that should cover things. Let me go ahead and save this and let's test this out. All right, so I had a little error here. This was causing me an error, so I'm going to remove it was a dynamic field that I needed to remove. So I've removed that and fixed that. Let me go ahead now and save and apply this and see if this works. So, all right, so we're back to the flow. Let's test it. We'll jump over to the email and let's see how this works. And there it is. And there it is. So we've got the updated email. We've got only the columns that we've selected, and we have the date formatted. So let me just kind of do a quick recap of each of the steps and kind of show the coding, because I think that does help bring this to a conclusion. So let me jump back to the flow, and I will walk through that one last time. All right, so here's the flow that we just ran, and I'm going to walk through the actual data so you can see this. So when you're clicking your button, again, these are the values then you can see here by seeing all of the values, and this is an actual array that is being sent. So you can see I've got all the fields, and then I've got all the rows. So this is the data that is being sent. Then, if you'll recall, in the select function, what I was doing was just selecting the PM email column out of this. So if I go over to here, what I was doing is taking all of this data, but only selecting the PM email section. And in this case, all of the emails are the same. So you're going to see a repetitive list of email addresses. But in a real life case, these would all be different. Then what happens is, because I've used that in that array, I unioned this output of this to itself. So basically, I took this and unioned it, the same thing. It actually removes the any of the duplicates. So I end up resulting will be a list of only unique email addresses. And then now the apply to each is applied to this list. And in this case, it's only going to run through one item. But if you had 5 different unique emails, this apply to each would go through each one of them. So then what I do is the first compose step says, hey, give me the actual email, because again, remember, this is this apply to each this is an array. So I want to actually reference the email column of this array, and that will then spit out exactly just the email address, because that's what I'm going to be using to filter this prior list. Again, I want to filter this into this list. So that's what then that will happen here. So that's what this compose step does. And then again, I'm saying filter this list, this entire list, where the project, the PM email field here, I can click here, equals, where it equals, and I'm referencing this previous step right here. So that will then, the output is, you're going to see it's going to filter everything, every record. In my case, I'm using the same email address, but it will filter it down. So now the output of this is, again, another array of all of these fields. Then, if you remember, we use the select to say, hey, I only want to select the certain fields. In my case, we wanted the project name, we wanted the end date. And again, you can see there's the formatting, which we had to fix. And I wanted the comment. So that's what this select does. So again, there's all the inputs and there's the outputs. And you'll notice that the end date is now filtered or is formatted. And then of course here is, this just takes this array and converts it into an HTML table format, which again, you can see the output. And then we use the send an email, including that style, which then applies some nice formatting to this HTML table. So hopefully that will sort of help walk through the steps on how I approach this to group all of these emails and these records into one. So hopefully that was helpful and will give you some ideas on how you can group multiple emails into one using Power BI and some Power Automate. So again, hope you found this helpful. If so, please hit that like button, and thank you again so much for watching.